In 2025, electricity prices in the United States rose 6.9%, more than double the headline rate of inflation. At the same time, AI data centers became one of the fastest-growing sources of new power demand in the country. The question is no longer whether artificial intelligence needs electricity. The question is, who pays for the grid it needs? In January 2025, OpenAI announced a $500 billion infrastructure project called Stargate, one of the most ambitious construction efforts in modern history. Just the Michigan site alone carries an initial price tag of $16 billion, and Oracle's CEO expects internal components to cost $30 to $40 billion more. But Stargate is just one project. Edison Electric Institute members, the companies that generate and deliver electricity across America, project $1.1 trillion in capital spending through 2029. Duke Energy alone committed $103 billion, the largest five-year capital plan for any regulated utility in the country. $500 billion here, $1 trillion there. The numbers are so large they stop meaning anything. But here's where it gets personal. When a $16 billion facility needs power, who pays to deliver it? Here's how it works. Step 1. A data center requests a connection to the electrical grid. Step 2. The local utility builds new infrastructure to serve it: poles, wires, substations, transmission lines, sometimes hundreds of miles of new capacity. Step 3. The utility files for rate recovery with the state regulator. Step 4. Those costs get spread across all ratepayers in the service area, including residential customers who never asked for any of it. The impact is already measurable. Electricity prices jumped 6.9% in 2025, according to Goldman Sachs, more than double headline inflation. They expect consumer electricity inflation to remain around 6% per year through 2027. The Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas estimates that wholesale power prices could rise by up to 50% as data center electricity demand doubles over the next 5 years. Fortune reported that utilities requested a record $31 billion in rate increases in 2025, more than double the year before. And in California, Pacific Gas and Electric says data center projects could add 10 gigawatts of new demand over the next decade, roughly 4 times the output of Diablo Canyon, the state's last operating nuclear plant. Now, to be clear, data centers are not the only reason electricity costs are rising. The grid is aging. Storms are getting more severe, gas prices fluctuate, utilities are retiring coal and gas plants, and the regulated utility model itself rewards infrastructure spending. The more a utility invests, the more it's allowed to earn. As Fortune put it, data center demand is a growing part of cost hikes, but it's only a piece of the puzzle. The difference is, it's one of the fastest growing pieces, and one most customers never agreed to finance directly. In March 2026, 7 companies, Amazon Web Services, Google, Meta, Microsoft, OpenAI, Oracle, and xAI, signed a ratepayer protection pledge at the White House. They promised to build, bring, or buy their own power for their data centers. They promised to pay for all new grid infrastructure. They promise to invest in local communities. The pledge is voluntary, non-binding. There is no enforcement mechanism. Consumer advocates described it as meaningless and unenforceable. And in California, previous legislation that would have required transparency and ratepayer protections, it stalled in 2025 after opposition from the technology industry. So if the pledge doesn't protect ratepayers, who's actually making money from all of this? Follow the money far enough and you stop seeing tech companies. You start seeing names most people have never heard of. CBRE is the world's largest commercial real estate company. In 2025, they generated over $3 billion in infrastructure-related revenue. Data center leasing revenue more than tripled in a single quarter. Critical infrastructure went from 3% of their core earnings in 2021 to 14% in 2025. They acquired Pierce Services for $1.2 billion. Their CEO called the shift at least as profound as outsourcing in the 1990s, and much faster. Then there's NVIDIA, $41 billion in data center revenue in a single quarter. The construction companies building these facilities, the cooling systems that keep servers running, the diesel generators for backup power, the fiber optic cables, the lobbyists, and the utilities themselves. In a rate of return regulatory model, the more a utility invests in infrastructure, the higher its allowed earnings. For regulated utilities, building more grid isn't a cost. It's a revenue opportunity. Not everyone is standing still. Senator Cynthia Lummis introduced the Power Up Act, a bill that would give the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission authority to approve or reject data center connections to the grid. Under the proposal, any facility with projected peak demand of 100 megawatts or more would need federal approval before connecting. The bill has not been passed into law. Meanwhile, more than 11 states are considering temporary restrictions on new data center construction, according to Spotlight PA. More than 30 have implemented or proposed special tariffs for large load customers. FERC itself has been working on new rules for how large facilities connect to transmission grids, with a target to finalize by mid-2026. But the industry that just signed a voluntary, non-binding pledge at the White House. They have lobbyists, too. And in California, they've already shown they can block legislation designed to protect ratepayers. Here's what we know. Big Tech has committed hundreds of billions of dollars to build the physical infrastructure behind artificial intelligence. That infrastructure needs power, more power than most grids were designed to deliver. Expanding the grid costs money, and the system that decides who pays was designed before anyone imagined a single building could consume as much electricity as a small city. The companies signed a pledge saying they'll cover their share. Consumer advocates say the pledge is meaningless. The regulators are still writing the rules. Data centers are not the only reason electricity costs are rising, but they are one of the fastest growing sources of new demand, and one most customers never agreed to finance directly. Next time your electricity bill arrives, now you know who else is using that grid. If this changed how you think about your power bill, subscribe. We follow the money, others don't.